In the grandest of sacred battles, a mythical narrative emerges, wherein a celestial being endowed with divine powers faces a multitude of 185,000 human soldiers. This celestial being descended from heaven with a sacred mission to protect a kingdom threatened by the invasion of an uncountable army. Today I will narrate all the details of this impressive sacred story, so I ask that you leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end of the video. The story begins during the reign of King Hezekiah in the ancient kingdom of Judah. King Hezekiah was the son of King Ahaz and ascended the throne of Judah at the age of 25. According to the Bible, his reign lasted approximately 29 years in a turbulent period. Hezekiah emerges as one of the most virtuous and reformist leaders in the Bible. He undertook a series of religious and political reforms that sought to restore worship to the God of Israel and eliminate the idolatry that had spread throughout the nation. The purification of the temple during King Hezekiah's government was a crucial event in the history of Judah. Amid spiritual decay, Hezekiah summoned priests and Levites who removed idols and impurities from the temple, restoring its sanctity. Worship was resumed with the solemn celebration of Passover and the abundant offering of sacrifices. This process marked the renewal of the covenant with God and symbolized the restoration of faith and devotion in Judah, consolidating Hezekiah's spiritual and reformist leadership. It is worth noting a curious and emblematic story that dates back to the times of the people of Israel. According to the book of Numbers in the Bible, during this journey in the desert, the people of Israel faced a plague of venomous snakes that afflicted them as divine punishment. Desperate, they cried out for help, and God instructed Moses to create a bronze snake and raise it on a pole. Those who were bitten by the snakes and looked at the bronze snake would be healed. This narrative raises intriguing questions about the relationship between faith, obedience, and divine healing. This phenomenon of religious or historical objects becoming objects of worship is known as relic worship or icon adoration, and has occurred throughout time in various cultures and religions. However, it is important to note that, according to the biblical narrative, the bronze snake was originally created by Moses under God's guidance as a means of healing, not with the intention of being worshipped. Due to this excessive worship of the snake, King Hezekiah took drastic measures. According to the Bible in Kings 18 verse 4, Hezekiah implemented an action to remove the statue, and he removed the altars, broke the statues, destroyed the idolatrous posts, and made pieces of the bronze snake that Moses had made, because until those days the children of Israel had incensed it and called it Nehushtan. Hezekiah decided to destroy the bronze snake because people had begun to worship it as an idol, burning incense and attributing to it an undue cult. This was in contradiction to the religious principles of monotheism and the prohibition of idol worship established in the law of Moses. This action demonstrated his commitment to the purity of faith and his desire to maintain worship centered on God rather than on objects or idols. Furthermore, Hezekiah also carried out important political reforms. He led the people of Judah in a period of resistance against the threat of Syria. The relationship between King Hezekiah of Judah and King Sennacherib of Assyria is marked by conflict and tension, recorded in the Bible and in historical inscriptions of the time. In the historical context, Sennacherib was an Assyrian king who ruled between 705 and 681 before Christ. During his reign, Assyria was a dominant regional power that was involved in various military campaigns in the region, including incursions into the region of Judah. The Assyrian army was one of the most powerful and feared military forces of the ancient world for its discipline, organization, and effectiveness. Concerned about the situation, King Hezekiah of Judah initially tried to seek a diplomatic solution and negotiate with King Sennacherib of Assyria to avoid a direct conflict. The biblical narrative and historical inscriptions provide details about these attempts at negotiation. According to the Bible in the Book of Kings, Hezekiah sent messengers to King Sen in search of peace, agreeing to pay a tribute in exchange for not being invaded. Then Sennacherib, king of Assyria, marched against all the fortified cities of Judah and conquered them. Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent a message to Sennacherib, king of Assyria in Lachish, saying, "I have sinned, I withdraw, I will do everything you impose." The king of Assyria initially imposed on Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. However, Sennacherib was not satisfied with the terms offered and decided to invade Judah anyway. This resulted in the situation of the siege of Jerusalem, where Hezekiah was left without escape. Faced with the rejection of his peace attempts, upon learning that Sennacherib had sent a threatening letter to the city and to the God of Israel, Hezekiah was deeply disturbed and distressed by the situation. He received the letter, went up to the temple and read it before the Lord. Upon reading the letter that mocked God and threatened the destruction of Jerusalem, Hezekiah tore his clothes as a sign of mourning, sorrow, and despair in the face of the Syrian threat. Tearing clothes was a common gesture in many ancient cultures, including the Jewish one, as a sign of anguish, mourning, or repentance. After this act, Hezekiah sought divine guidance and sent messengers to the prophet Isaiah in search of advice and guidance on how to deal with the situation. The prophet Isaiah received a message from God and reassured Hezekiah. Isaiah spoke a prophecy that assured divine protection and the defeat of the Assyrian army. He said, "Do not be afraid of the words you have heard with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed against me. I will make him return by the same way he came." He was conveying a message of trust and hope to Hezekiah and the people of Judah. He assured the king that God was aware of the blasphemies uttered by Sennacherib and the threats against Jerusalem. Isaiah prophesied that God would not allow Sennacherib to achieve his goal of destroying the city, asserting that the Assyrian army would be defeated and would not be able to conquer Jerusalem. Moreover, Isaiah reminded Hezekiah of God's promises to protect Judah and ensure the continuity of the Davidic lineage. He emphasized that Jerusalem would be saved due to God's love and promises to David. To strengthen Hezekiah's faith, Isaiah offered a miraculous sign as proof of the veracity of his words. He said that as a sign, the shadow on the sundial would retreat 10 degrees. As recorded in the Bible, this sign indeed happened, demonstrating God's power and authority. Isaiah's message brought comfort and hope to Hezekiah and the people of Judah in a moment of great anguish, solidifying their trust in God's protection. Hezekiah then expressed his faith in God and pleaded with the Lord to hear his prayers and intervene on behalf of Jerusalem. He appealed for God to protect the city and demonstrate his power, so that all the kingdoms of the earth would know that the Lord was the supreme God. The result of this episode is that God responded to Hezekiah's faith and prayer. According to the Bible, after King Hezekiah's prayers and the message of comfort from the prophet Isaiah, God intervened supernaturally to protect Jerusalem. This is reported in Kings 19, verse 35. Then, in that same night, the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians, and when they arose early in the morning, behold, all of them were dead. In one night, an angel of the Lord was sent and inflicted great destruction on the army camp of the Assyrians, resulting in the death of 185,000 soldiers. The action of the angel is described as being of such magnitude that the Assyrian army was completely defeated. Although the Bible does not provide specific details about how this supernatural event occurred, it is presented as an act of divine intervention to protect Jerusalem and its people. The story highlights the belief in divine protection and the importance of faith in moments of great danger. The reaction of the people the next day was one of great shock and surprise at the destruction of the Assyrian army. The people of Jerusalem and their leaders, including King Hezekiah, were relieved and grateful for having been protected from such an imminent and destructive threat. They recognized God's power and divine intervention as the reason they were safe. According to historical records and Assyrian inscriptions, King Sennacherib of Assyria managed to escape after the defeat of his army during the siege of Jerusalem. Despite the significant defeat and substantial losses in his forces, Sennacherib survived and continued to rule the Assyrian Empire for some time after this event. Although his attempt to conquer Jerusalem was unsuccessful, the account of the death of King Sennacherib of Assyria is not found in the Bible, but is mentioned in historical Assyrian records. According to these records, the death of Sennacherib occurred in a violent and tragic way. Sennacherib was assassinated in the year 681 before Christ in circumstances that are not entirely clear. According to Assyrian inscriptions, his son Esarhaddon conspired against him and assassinated him. The reasons for the assassination vary in the different historical sources, but it is possible that it was a struggle for power within the royal family. The defeat of the Assyrian army, which was considered invincible, highlights how human arrogance and excessive confidence in military strength can be frustrated by divine actions. It teaches us that even when circumstances seem impossible, God can intervene and change the course of events in favor of his people. The story also shows us the importance of humility before God. Hezekiah continued to worship the God of Israel and promote religious reforms in the kingdom. Furthermore, he fortified the defenses of Jerusalem and expanded the city's infrastructure, building a new outer wall called the Wall of Siloam to further strengthen the city against possible threats. However, Hezekiah faced some health challenges during his reign. As recorded in the Bible, he became ill and almost died. It was then that Hezekiah once again expressed his faith in God and pleaded with the Lord to hear his prayers. In response, God healed him and granted him another 15 years of life. As recorded in the book of Isaiah 38, Hezekiah passed away after a reign that lasted approximately 29 years, around 686 before Christ, and was succeeded by his son Manasseh, who, unlike his father, ruled in a less virtuous manner and introduced idolatry into Judah. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and click on one of the 2 videos that will appear to continue watching us. Hugs and stay with God.